this is Ken Miles with Common Thread, and I'm here with my friend Aspen, who does tarot readings. I think a lot of people out there find tarot especially to be confusing. There are 72 different cards. There are 72 different things that can come up, and then you double it. 78.
78.
There's 78 cards in
There are
deck?
52 card playing decks, 78 card tarot decks.
Oh, 20. Wait a minute. 22 major arcana, and then the 4 suits. Okay. See, I'm always, I don't know where 72 came from.
A lot of people get it mixed up because there are 52 cards in a playing card
Okay,
deck.
all right.
So just mix up that last number.
Okay, so 78. So you got the 78 cards, and then each card has 2 meanings depending on whether it's straight or reversed.
The meanings, in my experience, are essentially the same.
Okay.
The reversed or upright will simply indicate as to whether it's a problematic influence or a helpful influence.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of tarot? Where does it come from? What is its origin?
Its origin is definitely debatable. There are theories that it came from Romani Gypsy times. There are theories that it dates back to ancient Egypt. The only real hard and fast origins that we have is the Visconti Churro. Was originally commissioned in Italy in the 1400s to commemorate a wedding between 2 great families. It is incomplete, which is why on the Visconti Churro you always find 2 names on it, like the Visconti Yale or the Visconti Sforza, and those are the second name represents the individual who completed it in the original style. The classic Visconti, since it was a wedding celebration, was gold-plated, and overall a really interesting deck. However, since it was also done in the 1400s, which was pre-Arthur Edward Waite, which we'll get to in a minute, the pips are not illustrated with individuals. The pips are all very plain, very simple, just cups, just wands, just swords, and just discs. A lot of Spanish decks today are still designed in this fashion, making them rather difficult to read for the modern day practitioner who really have become so attached to the visual cues. In 1909-1910, a ceremonial magician named Arthur Edward Waite commissioned a deck to be actually drawn and painted by one of his students, Pamela Colman Smith. Arthur Edward Waite was the first one to design the pip cards with actual illustrations of individuals. Again, you have the 4 suits, the swords, the wands, the pentacles, the chalices, and you have the major arcana, the tower, the lovers, the wheel of fortune, and so forth. But all of these were actually illustrated with very specific meanings and very specific symbolisms, and is just about the primary template for almost all modern tarot decks. Not all, but almost all, even if they take considerable artistic license. Generally, when somebody is just starting to learn tarot, I highly recommend they learn the basic symbolisms of the Rider-Waite, so they're then able to go ahead and carry that over to the different symbolisms in the deck that they may own that may work with them on a more psychic level. Around the same era of Arthur Edward Waite, just a little bit after, here's a name that most will find familiar, Aleister Crowley designed a deck. It is a bit different than the Rider-Waite. Crowley commissioned it to be drawn and painted by a woman named Lady Frida Harris. The major arcana, again, is illustrated in a very interesting fashion. The minor arcana, the pip cards, however, are a little less so. Not so much having the people with different designs and depictions and actions. So, but again, still very, very wrought with symbolism. Now, Aleister Crowley was another ceremonial magician, just like Arthur Edward Waite, though they definitely had different practices. So, whereas Arthur Edward Waite allowed all of the meaningless cards to be covered by the symbolisms, the mountains in the background, the cities, the castle walls, more mountains, the roses, all of these have symbolism in the Rider-Waite deck. Crowley went ahead and over each one wrote a key word at the bottom of each card. So I find the best way to really work with any tarot deck, since the two primary decks that most decks today are based off of were written by ceremonial magicians and Kabbalists, is to study your Kabbalistic numerology and your psychology and work from there.
Now, when you say numerology and Kabbalistic and all that, those tend to scare people. You know, as far as, oh my God, I can't learn that.
Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes.
What kind of learning are we talking about here for Kabbalah or?
Okay, Kabbalistically, running through the correspondences of Tarot. The graphs I'm using are from The Witch's Kabbalah by Ellen Cannon Reed. Wonderful, wonderful book. Will make it so easy to understand for you. It really will. Is the ace corresponds with Kether, which corresponds with crown in English. That's the English translation. Kether or crown essentially means God spark, divine spark, inspiration. In the whole manifest process, that is the idea that begins the whole thing. And that is what the aces represent. The idea, the seed, the inspiration. Moving on to 2, you come down and to the right, which is Chokmah. English translation is wisdom. What 2 really represents is it's really starting to build that energy, that expansion, that growth. It is the masculine. It is the essential, the God form on the tree of life. And it's where you really start building that potential, that possibility. So a lot of the time it can mean change because things can be growing so quickly. You move on to the 3s. You come over across to Bina, whose English translation is understanding. Bina is 3 on the tree of life. She is goddess, just as 3s represent goddess and femininity and fertility. But in the tree of life, it also means taking all that energy that you built up in Chokmah and harnessing it and refining it and putting it into something more definable. So it's taking that idea that then builds energy and then saying, I'm going to do this with it.